Hello and welcome. We are so glad that you've said yes to be on the nominating committee here at Centennial Baptist Church. The Bible tells us that the church is a body with many parts, and as the nominating committee, it is your job to help facilitate putting those parts with different gifts and abilities into one body in order to help the church function in the way that it's supposed to function. There's a couple of things that I want to make sure that as a committee that we are dedicated to doing. And that is that we as a nominating committee are not here just to fill a role or to fill a slot because we've always done it. Sometimes ministries and churches ebb and flow, and sometimes there's not a person to fill a specific role. Maybe that's God telling us that we need to pause that particular ministry for a while until somebody feels very called in order to do that particular ministry. What your job entails, besides just finding the right person, is familiarizing yourself with the actual role that you're asking somebody to do. So I would encourage you to familiarize yourself with the church handbook in order to know the positions that we're asking somebody to fill. Encourage you once again to spend much time in prayer before making any calls, and as you gather together and you start discussing names of people who would be in those roles, you need to do so prayerfully, and obviously in the meetings you need to begin those meetings with prayer. You need to end those meetings with prayer as you seek to find the right person for the right position. And then again, reach out to that person personally. And you might want to ask them questions as you talk about the role that you're talking to them about, and see, hey, is this something that you really feel that God is leading you to do? Do you see in your life how God has equipped you to do a specific role that we are asking you to do? And are you clear on the expectations? We always have the information is in the church handbook about what the role is that we are asking somebody to fill, and so we need to make sure that they have that information as they are prayerfully considering themselves whether they want to do that position. Which is something else that you ought to encourage them to do, is not only should the committee pray for the person who is filling that role, but also the person who is being considered should also pray about that role. And if they feel that God is not telling them that they should do that role, as a committee, we need to make sure that we don't try and guilt somebody into doing something that they don't feel that God is having them do. We need to make sure that the volunteers are approved before they serve. When we ask somebody to do something, they need to be approved both by the church, and then there are certain roles that require background checks, like youth and children's workers require having a background check. Now, our church policy is that background check is done once every 3 years on any given person, and that we fulfill the church policies in order to that they've done all the requirements for the church policy for that. There are some roles that our church has that require a period of time before a person can step into that role, but we need to make sure that those are in line with what our current church policies are. As we are talking about roles that people fill, we need to make sure that people have a certain gift or a certain aptitude for that particular gift or for that particular role as they are filling that role, not just availability. While sometimes there are roles that are needed, that we need somebody who is available, who is willing to be trained, that may not think that they are gifted in a certain area, but if they are willing to be trained, they may find that they thrive in that particular role. So just keep that in mind, that there's a twofold part to this. There is gifting, but then there's also availability, and sometimes the two of them can kind of come together and form a person, or not form a person, but give a person the tools that they need in order to serve in that role. every year, the nominating committee meets over the summer in order to try and ask people to fill positions in our church, for the leadership in our church. As the nominating committee does that, the main goal is to fill the leadership positions of those committees. Once the leadership positions are filled, those leaders will be finding help for their certain committees. Many committees are continuing committees, like the budget committee is always a certain number of people. That's always the committee head. So as you're asking somebody to be a leader for a committee, part of their responsibility would be to be on the budget team. Also, for the Christian ministries, a lot of those people have been serving on that committee for years and will continue to do so. But there may come a time when the leader for the Christian ministries, ministry team leader, needs help finding people. And so sometimes the nominating committee may be asked to help find other people to help fill those committees as they need to be filled. Once you have done all of your work and you have your people who are going to be put for nomination into these roles, every August, the nominating committee is responsible for having its report so that the church can vote on those at the August business meeting. Our church year starts September 1st. We do that because that kind of aligns with the school year, so that the school year goes from September to May, and then the summer continues that on. That's why our church year starts in September, is because the school year does that. So when we promote students from one grade to the next, they do so in September. That's why we do it then. Once the church has seen the list, they will vote to approve the nominations, and then your job is done for the main part of that. There are a couple of guidelines that we ask the nominating committee to try and follow. There are 3 committees that serve on a rotating basis. When we ask people to serve on the nominating committee, the personnel committee, or the trustees, we ask them to serve for 3-year terms. Each committee has 6 people, so we rotate every year, with 2 people rotating off of each committee on each year, so that you have 4 people that stay on the committee and then 2 people rotate off. As a rule of thumb, this is not like policy, but here's what we try to do to make sure that we involve more people on those committees is, 1, we try not to have the same person on any 2 of those committees at the same time. Occasionally, we have had people that have served on 2 committees at the same time. That's not against church policy, but it is against our practice. So it's not against the rule per se, against the policy per se, but it is against what we're trying to do by including more people to get involved on those different committees. Also, once a person has rotated off of one of those committees, we give them a year off before asking them to serve again. So that once somebody rotates off that committee, they don't serve on that same committee for a full year after they have rotated off. Again, this is a practice, not a handwritten or a hard written rule, but once again, it's to encourage more people to be involved in these committee processes. And these 3 are 3 very important committees that we have at the church, and so therefore, like I said, we want more people to be involved on those committees as possible. As a general rule, we like to have our committee process starting early in March or so. We ask that the nominating committee to start praying over the nominations that they know that places are going to need to be filled. We know, like I said, those rotating committees, we know that you're going to need 6 people every year, 2 for personnel, 2 for trustees, 2 for nominating committee. And so we know those are going to be open at any given time. The leadership of certain committees, most of the time, people will continue to serve on those if they are, but sometimes there is a person that has to step down or step away, sometimes because they've moved, sometimes because they are just needing some time off from that position, or other times because they have, that person has passed away and we need a different person to fill that role. That would be another reason why the nominating committee may need to meet during the middle of the year, would be to fill a position that somebody, that either that person cannot no longer serve in that role. When that happens, we can always have a special business meeting. We just need a couple of weeks in order to call for that business meeting, and we can have it right after church at the time that we need to have that. So that way we don't have 3 months where we don't have a position filled. We can get those filled fairly quickly once the nominating committee has decided on who should do that. Every year in March, if you could start, the June and July process is really the time when we're asking people to serve, prayerfully asking those to serve in August. Then we present that at the business meeting in August. And then after the August business meeting, if we have roles that haven't been filled, we can always call a special business meeting to fill those roles as soon as they have been filled. As we are a church that believes in the power of prayer, it is vitally important that prayer is a priority for the nominating committee. As you are considering certain people for leadership roles in the ministry of the church, we need to prayerfully consider each and every person that is being discussed. And so I just want to encourage you to make prayer a priority, not just in the meetings times, but as you take on your role, pray before you talk to people, because on this committee you will be asked to talk to people, to ask them if they are willing to serve in certain roles. Before you make that phone call, before you have that conversation with somebody, pray about it. Pray that God will just lead that discussion as it goes on. I want to thank you so much for being willing to serve on the nominating committee here at Centennial Baptist Church. This is a very important committee, and I just encourage you to prayerfully consider the people that we are asking to fill certain roles in the ministries here at Centennial Baptist Church. Thank you, and God bless you for all that you've done.